Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Wouldn't it be great if you had peace and prosperity in your life and you face those things that are challenging you, your struggles, head on with courage, love, truth, and also forgiveness? The world will be a better place for you. Well, we've got something that can do just that. And the things I'm describing is what he went through, and now he's changed things up, and he has become spiritual and somebody that practices all of that through Chakra Challenge. Josh Odom joins us here on the program today. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with you.
It's an honor to be here based on your story, which normally I take some time and then we get into somebody's backstory, but I believe we should start with it and then talk about Chakra Challenge, energy healing, and how all of that takes place. You're the founder of Chakra Challenge. How did you get into the spiritual world coming from where you were?
Well, I'll try to make this short, but my background was, I would say, quite opposite of the spiritual path. I was in the military, an infantryman and a sniper. I served in the Iraq War in 2003 and 2004. And then after that, I got into professional mixed martial arts fighting. And I was under the tutelage of Frank Shamrock. He was the middleweight champion of the UFC. And I joined his team and fought in the International Fight League for a time. And after that, I got into law enforcement for a year. And then I went back to Iraq with a company called Triple Canopy and provided protective services to our diplomats and people like John McCain. I protected him. And I did that for 3 years. And I got injured. I had a bad fall off an armored vehicle during a sandstorm. And I had to end up having 3 major surgeries. I had to have neck fusion and disc replacement, a lower back fusion, and an ankle reconstruction. And so this was all leading to the spiritual path and eventually what happened. So this was the darkest time of my life. It was so hard because it was about a 5-year healing process. And, you know, they would do one surgery at a time and then wait and see what happens. And then you go through all the therapy, you heal up, and then just to go back under the knife and have to do it all again. And so I struggled so much with depression, with terrible anxiety, with addiction, addicted to pain pills, was just in so much pain. I could barely turn my neck, barely turn around. And the mental battle of understanding if you'll ever be able to do anything that you used to do. You know, I had my degree in criminal justice. I'd been a warrior pretty much my whole life to this point. And I really had no clue what I would be able to do. So I just lived with such a sense of fear this whole time. And Frank Shamrock had given me a book called Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And Dan Millman was the writer of this book. And they turned it into a movie. But that kind of gave me a little bit of a step towards the spiritual path. Now, I was raised in a very strict Christian setting with my parents, and there was a lot of good in that. But then I also struggled with a lot of the parts of the Bible that contradicted. And so when I got that book by Dan Millman, that kind of opened my eyes a bit. And going through that process of healing, where I was focusing mostly on the body, I began to dabble into yoga and to help me with the flexibility part of things, the balance, the strength. And I started finding some of the deep spiritual aspects of yoga. And I could see that it connected a lot to what the Bible taught, to what Buddhism taught, to what many different religions taught. And I started seeing the the connection instead of the differences that many people focus on. And so surgeries went through. It was, I got divorced during this time. Finances were crazy. I learned it's called the dark night of the soul. It's where it's kind of make or break time. It's it's just everything's going wrong and you've got to make some serious changes. And the only thing that I had pushing me to keep going was still, I hadn't given up on being a warrior. I hadn't given up on that lifestyle. And that really kept me going. And I went through the DEA's hiring process and I got cleared by the doctors. I got cleared by their doctors, passed everything in their hiring process. And as I was about to plan to go to their academy, I got a call from them and they said, on second thought, we've got some concerns about your injuries, even though we've cleared you. And so we're going to rescind our hiring offer, but we'll allow you to go through the whole 2-year process again if you want to. And that actually was the thing that broke me. It really just took all hope from me. For 3 months, I was in the deepest depression you could imagine, really thought about if I wanted to be here any longer or not. And in a moment of deep despair, I remember hitting my knees and I said, God, what do you have for me? Because I am out of ideas. Give me the biggest thing to do because I've done everything my way and I'm out of options. And in that moment, I heard a voice speak to me. And it said, my son, I've been waiting for you. And I have a lot for you to do. But you're going to have to make a choice. And that choice is either you're going to have to walk the divine path of love, truth, peace, and forgiveness, or you'll choose the way of the world, the way of the ego, the way of the so-called devil, which is judgment, guilt, anger, and attack. And that becomes a vicious cycle that keeps repeating. And the only thing that breaks that cycle is forgiveness. And in that very intimate moment with me and God, I had all of this like downloaded into my mind. I had the most tremendous feeling of peace and power that came into me that I can't even describe it. I've been to war. I've almost been killed. I've fought on TV in front of thousands of people. I've sampled with ecstasy and psilocybin. I have felt these amazing, highs and lows, and nothing compared to what happened in this moment of surrender. That's what it came down to. It was just surrendering my way and asking God to lead me. And it was shown to me that many of the religions, many of the faiths come up the mountain to God, but they all must cross the bridge of forgiveness to make it home. That forgiveness leads to peace, peace leads to love, and God is love. And as you begin to make that journey, you'll start to feel the wisdom, the power, the protection of God start moving in your life. It'll be like this inner force that just keeps moving you as you can get the mind out of the way, the intellect, the selfishness. It takes over. And in that time of surrender, of deep meditation, chakra challenge, all came to me. And knowing that I had to become a I'm a teacher of metaphysics, but a spiritual teacher where I take in all faiths. I take in science, I take in logic. And once you do that, you can really see the big picture. If you're just looking at God through one religion, it's like looking at him through a keyhole instead of seeing the vast connection of the entire universe. And so the hardest time of my life, the time of the most deep despair, led me to the spiritual path. And, Chakra Challenge has been open 2.5 years now, and just helping so many people through their own fears, their own past traumas, their addictions. This formula that I was given, I call it the enlightenment formula. It has no dogma in it. It's a scientific, spiritual formula that can be proven by the individual. It's a formula that takes you to God, ultimately to forgiveness. It basically says it takes you through beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and actions. Through that, everything is created that you can think of. Elon Musk wanted to create SpaceX, believed he could, started thinking about how to do it. That creates the feeling, the motivation, and then he takes the actions.
Well, isn't that manifestation?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Tesla, the scientist, not the car, did the same thing. He was, in my studies, the master of that as well. What you think becomes reality. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
When you say forgiveness, who did you need to forgive?
Oh, there was a lot of forgiveness that I had to work through. Forgiveness of God, forgiveness of myself, forgiveness of family and friends. Because a big part of the story I didn't mention was I hid being gay till my early 30s. And so I lived a lie for a very long time. And, there's a lot of reasons why. Don't ask, don't tell was still going on. So I was scared to be kicked out of the military, not be able to do, what I love, serve my country. I was scared to come out to my family because of their very deep religious beliefs. I was born in Tallahassee. I literally, through high school, didn't know one person that was gay. So I thought something was wrong with me. And that's where that forgiveness of God had to come in. And it wasn't until I met my partner and now husband, Casey, who came out at a much earlier age. He really helped give me that confidence and that self-worth, and to truly be myself. Because without integrity, if your beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and actions don't match, you will be restless, you will be angry, you will not be happy. So I had to work on forgiving my parents for things that they said, for the way I was treated, and forgiving myself for not having the courage to do it sooner. Because I just lived a lie to so many people. And so that was something I really, really had to work through. And even the things done in war, because just to see what's happened with Iraq and Afghanistan, it's just such a shame. So many people injured and so much trauma, and it's kind of like, for what? And so, forgiveness isn't something that happens overnight. It's a process. And first you got to believe that you want to, that it's good. And a lot of times we want to hold on to hate. We want to hold on to that rage, that anger, because it gives us something. We feel like if we let go of that, what else is there? And what else is there is peace on that other side. And so that was my forgiveness journey.
I think we forget that when we're challenged, that forgiving yourself needs to be included. We always point the finger, that person did that, and that one over there, that. And I learned long ago that when you point that finger, you've got one pointing at them, you have three pointing back at you. And
Yes.
we normally don't forgive ourselves, but it takes two in any situation. you know?
Yes. And A Course in Miracles, which is probably one of the greatest spiritual books I ever read. And the whole theme is forgiveness. But it says that forgiveness is to set a prisoner free and to realize that that prisoner was you.
Mm.
And that's always stuck with me so deep. And life is really about how quickly can you come back to balance?
Yes.
Whether physically, your heart rate's up, your blood pressure's up, how quickly can you bring the breath to balance and find your center? It's the same thing when you're thinking negatively, and it's the same thing when you're experiencing very powerful emotions of fear, of desire, of anger. How quickly can you let those go? The masters, the yogic masters, they can do it, and other masters of other faiths, they can do it very quickly. And some of us, it takes, maybe it takes 6 hours to get over what someone said, or 6 days, or sometimes 6 decades. And it's how quickly can you do that?
I'm gonna throw
Forgiveness.
you a question I've wondered about based on exactly what you're saying. And
Okay.
I don't want to run out of time here because
I
we got more to talk
know.
about. But in that situation where you come back to center, something happens and it should agitate you. Maybe others say, how can, yeah, wait, you should be angry. And you're like, it's fine. Nah, I'm not worried about it. Is it that you've mastered coming back to center or you've desensitized yourself to situations? How do you know the difference? Or do you?
Well, it starts with, and this is what metaphysics really helps with, understanding who you truly are and why you're here. And what I mean by that is we are spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Agreed.
Earth is a classroom for the soul. So it's really like you're a spirit, you're an avatar. It's the spirit, and the body is the temple holding the spirit. So everything that happens ultimately, I like to say, Earth is a classroom where we are here to learn and teach the lessons of love and forgiveness. So don't get stuck in thinking this is the end all be all. This is a short glimpse in time and space. The true reality is the spirit. You see, and that's where metaphysics, science can take you to the Big Bang, but it can't take you past that. Where spirituality and metaphysics can take you past that. And so ultimately, it doesn't matter what job you choose, who you choose to marry, how many kids you have. It's all set up to test your peace, your love, and your power of forgiveness. And where do you break? Do you break when someone cuts you off in traffic? Is that your breaking point? Is it when your spouse says something unkind? Or does it get more serious? Does someone have to physically hurt you? But it's just what Jesus said. Love your enemies. Forgive those who persecute you. Because if you're able to do that at the most extreme level, like he did, you reset everything. You stop cause and effect. You stop karma. You stop reaping what you sow. You can see that in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They're attacking them because of something that happened thousands of years ago. And then they attack back. And then in 200 years from now, they'll say, well, because you did this, and it just the insanity keeps on going. So forgiveness is whether it's between me and you, me and my father, or between two countries. It is the key to bring us all back home.
Mm. I understand what you're saying because I went through a lot and yeah. And I'm piloted by these three things. And I didn't make this up. People say it came from Shakespeare. People say it came from Bob Marley, but love everyone, trust few. That's a key point. Takes time to learn that, and do the right thing for the good of all, not just the right thing for yourself. And that's kind of that's how that drives my car in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
Love God and love each other.
Sure.
And that was a big part is learning what your gifts are, what your talents are, and then
So that
serve
you can help,
serve
so that you
others.
can help others, right? Except that we're saying at the same time.
Yeah.
So Chakra Challenge, a lot of the principles, a lot of things that we're talking about here included in that. And we don't have time to dig into energy, chakras, all of that. But that is that everything is energy. Chakras are your energy system within your body, so to speak. And
Yes.
you do virtual classes, you do workshops, you have an amazing staff. And by the way, an amazing website as well. Um,
Thank you.
in the time that we have, couple of minutes that we have left, what else can we tell people about Chakra Challenge?
Well, it's a yoga and holistic wellness center. It focuses on finding balance in what I call the four pillars of existence: the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. Everything that you could possibly think of resides in one of those four. So that really helps to condense the universe and everything we're going through in those four areas. So we use different techniques to help people balance those four, whether it's acupuncture and massage, and parts of yoga working on the physical. And I do spiritual coaching where I help people with, the chakra system is simply just, it's a map. It represents 7 challenges or 7 levels of energy that we have to master. So fear, desire, control, and judgment are the first 4. And then learning to express yourself and connecting with everyone really helps open up what I would say is your psychic. I don't like saying psychic, but it's like these inner gifts that we all have. So as you begin to purify yourself and let go of judgments and overcome fear, inner gifts begin to awaken. And meditation is really one of the biggest keys. Everybody focuses on prayer, but I like to say prayer is for the asking, meditation is for the receiving. And it's just being there, letting the mind go, balancing the breath. And it's like spirit just brings things to you. And it makes it so much less hard instead of forcing things. And so Chakra Challenge it's a sanctuary, it's a haven for those in the community to come and find balance and overcome those challenges of life that we're all here to get through. And I do in-person coaching and online coaching to help people wherever they're at, because I've experienced a lot of things, and I know this formula will work for everybody on Earth. Everybody in the entire universe is here to do the exact same thing.
Well, a lot of what we're talking about, as you said, has been proven over centuries. We're not just making this up.
No.
This thing called energy. I'm gratified to see that people are finally accepting it, learning about it, being intrigued about it. I dealt with psychics and intuitives for 25 years. Close friends, top names in the world, but never really truly understood energy until a few years ago. And then finally,
Yeah.
and then I had that epiphany sitting in my garage. I'm looking out one day and I'm just looking at the trees thinking I could live anywhere and be happy at this point. What do you need? And then I was like, yeah, we are spiritual beings in a human container. And it just like
That's
popped
it.
in my head. Like that's what it is. Um, how do we find Chakra Challenge? And much of this can be done virtually, correct?
Yes, it absolutely can. So, people can reach out to me at josh@chakrachallenge.com. We have our chakrachallenge.com website. So those are probably the, 2 best ways to reach out for us. If anyone, of course, is local, come see us. And if you want to do a virtual coaching session with me, we'll go through the chakra system. We'll use my enlightenment formula that I was given that, like I said, the different religions and teachers have said the same thing, but there gets to be a lot of dogma in there. There gets to be a lot of, there's killing and judgment, but then also says love. And it's like, which one do I do here? I'm like, And so my formula, it takes you through your decisions. So you'll see that you either come from a place of love or you come from a place of fear in everything that you do. It starts there in your beliefs, and from there it flows into your thoughts, feelings, and actions. And so I break each one of those down in much more detail. And But yeah, it's very powerful.
Mhm. Well said on those two, fear and love, because fear pilots so many different things. Anxiety, anger. You get angry, but you don't realize that it's because you have a fear of something over here,
Exactly.
but it's really anger. So
Yeah.
much to talk about. Thank you for today. Just wonderful hearing your story, and it's very relatable, I think, for many of us. Some of us have gotten to that point where it's like, what the blank? What is going
Yeah.
on in my life? I need something else. Maybe you need to be spiritual. Doesn't have to be connected to religion, but it can,
No,
if you so choose.
it's just got
Yeah.
to come back. It's just got to come back to exactly what I said:
Yep.
forgiveness, peace, love,
Yep.
and that's it. It's that simple.
ChakraChallenge.com. Josh, thank you so much for being here today, and looking forward if we ever get a chance to talk again.
Thank you, Steve. It was my pleasure. Be well.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.